Dr. R. Sugaraj Samuel. He is working as a professor in physics at New College, Chennai. He is also training students for IIT JEE, AIEEE and BIT SAT. He has more than 16 years experience in both teaching and research. He has published a book titled The Complete Handbook of Bachelor of Electronic Science Practicals, which is prescribed for the syllabus for BSc Electronic Science by University of Madras. He has presented papers in several national and international conferences and has also conducted many training programs and workshops to motivate energetic students. His research areas are ultrasonic, polymers, crystal growth, and photovoltaic systems. He is experienced in both regular classroom teaching and online teaching as well.
Welcome to UGC lecture series in electricity and magnetism. We have been discussing about the topics related to magnetism in this part of the lecture series. In today's lecture, in continuation to what we have already seen, we are going to learn the applications of Biot-Savart law. So, let us see the session outline before we start this lecture. In this session, we are going to see the applications of Biot-Savart law. The magnetic field B due to a straight current carrying infinitely long wire, and magnetic field due to a current carrying circular coil, and finally the current carrying coil as a magnetic dipole. This lecture is purely devoted to seeing some of the applications of Biot-Savart law. So, before we actually start the applications, let us recap what is Biot-Savart law quickly and then use the Biot-Savart law for finding the magnetic field produced by various geometric current elements like straight wire, coil, etc. So, let us recap the Biot-Savart law. Hope you remember the vector form and scalar form of Biot-Savart law, which we have seen in the earlier lecture. The magnetic field produced by a current element IDL is given by the expression dB is equal to mu naught divided by 4 pi I dl sin theta divided by r square. Here the mu naught is permeability of the space in which the current element is kept, I is the current, dl is the small part of the current carrying wire, r is the distance between the point where we want to find the magnetic field and the current element, and theta is the angle between the current element and the distance r, the tangent that we consider. The same could be written in the vector form like this. IDL is a vector which is a current element, and r is the position vector connecting the point and the current element, and the remaining terms I have already explained. So, when we write r as a vector, we will have r cube in the denominator. This is one key point that we need to note, and if r is written as a unit vector, in that case the denominator will have a r square. So, these are some of the key factors that we have to keep in mind before we use the Biot-Savart law. We will normally use the Biot-Savart law in the scalar form, because handling a vector is little difficult when we have to integrate and do calculations. So, what we will do is we will use Biot-Savart law in the scalar form and get the magnitude of the magnetic field first, and then using right hand thumb rule we can find out the direction of magnetic field. So, that approach will help us to do the calculations at ease. So, shall we start the first application of Biot-Savart law, that is using the Biot-Savart law to find the magnetic field produced by a long current carrying straight wire. So, let us do the calculations. The Biot-Savart law gives the magnetic field of an isolated current element at some point, but such an isolated current element cannot exist the way an isolated electric charge can exist. A current element must be part of a complete circuit in order for charges to flow. Thus, the Biot-Savart law is only the first step in a calculation of a magnetic field. It must be followed by an integration over the current distribution. Hence, the method of doing the integration gets preeminence. So, we need to write the expressions using geometrical considerations, and finally, the integration has to be carried out meticulously even if we want to find out the magnetic field. So, for a straight wire, how do we consider these factors? The magnetic field due to a straight wire. Let us take a straight current carrying wire XY, which is the part of an external circuit. So, here I have shown the wire XY. It carries current from bottom to top as far as this arrangement is concerned, and this is the part of an external circuit. From X and Y we have an external circuit which is connected, through which the current is flowing. So, for simplicity's sake, the external circuit is not shown in this diagram. Only the current carrying straight wire is alone considered for discussion. A steady current I flows in it. We are interested in finding the magnetic field B at a point P due to the XY wire. So, this is the point P at which we want to find the magnetic field. AB is an infinitely small section of the wire. A is the perpendicular distance between the wire and the point P. So, these are all the geometrical considerations before we do a calculation. A is shown here, which is the perpendicular distance from the current wire and the point P, and in the wire section XY we will consider a small infinitesimal element which is marked here as dl, which is also represented as AB. This is the small element. Due to this small element, what is the magnetic field here, and then through the entire section XY, what is the magnetic field. That is what is our approach. So, we will have to do the integration. So, having fixed the geometrical arrangements, so let us take the equation further for simplification. So, let us start with the Biot-Savart law. This is the Biot-Savart law, and now we try to bring in the terms for sin theta, what it is and all. Where is theta? So, here it is marked. So, what is the angle theta? It is the angle between the current element I dl. So, dl is here, and the line that is connecting the segment. So, this is theta. Because the AB section is very small, the entire section subtends an angle theta. So, that is our idea. The part A and also part B, they subtend the same angle because the dl element is very small. And we can consider a triangle ABC here, which is marked here ABC. From that we can write what is sin theta. The AB is dl. So, we have written what is AC. The AC is the perpendicular that is shown here, and that is written as dl sin theta. And from another triangle APC, where is A here, P and the point C, we consider this is the triangle APC. AC is written as R d phi. So, we introduce one more angle phi. This phi will be very much useful in doing the steps at ease. So, we use the segment law for this, and R d phi is written as dl sin theta. So, dl sin theta is now written as R dl. So, this is the conversion we have got. What is R? R is the distance between the infinitesimal element and the point P, and d phi is this angle, how much that segment AB or dl subtends at the point P. So, rather than keeping the theta as a angle, we take the d phi as an angle. This is very much useful for integration. With that idea, we take it further. Now substituting for the dl sin theta, we simplify it this way. So the equation has become very simple one. And also the other triangle OPA, in that triangle we have the full fledged theta. This dl is a small angle, but this is the regular phi. So with that value we can replace what is r also. So here r is equal to a divided by cos phi. So the equation becomes a very simple equation in terms of phi alone. Look at this equation. This is the modified Biot-Savart law equation. In this, current I is a constant, the perpendicular distance A is a constant. So only the angle is varying. The angle varies from a particular value phi 1 to phi 2. Phi 2 is marked, the entire section is phi 2. So if phi varies from phi 1 to phi 2, the entire section xy is covered. So how easily all the varying quantities are converted in terms of phi. So to find the total magnetic field, we need to integrate the above equation. With this only one variable phi, the integration step also becomes a very easy one. So next is just the integration, that is what we perform. So the integration is carried out to cover the entire length of the wire. The entire length is xy, and it is integrated from minus phi 1 to plus phi 2. Why minus? Because if you look at the way in which the integration is done, from the center segment phi is measured downward. I would like to mark it also, so that we remember every time the sense of consideration is important. This is marked downward, and phi 2 is measured upward. So this sense is different. This is downward sense, this is upward sense. So to accommodate that, we use minus sign for phi 1 and plus sign for phi 2, and the integration is carried out in the same sequence. So integral cos phi d phi is sin phi, and we apply the limits, and finally we have this equation for finding the magnetic field due to the entire section xy. Phi 1, phi 2 alone are existing, that will cover the entire section. And we can consider a special case. Suppose if the wire is an infinite long wire, it runs on both the sides up to infinity. What will be the value for phi 1 and phi 2? They will be approaching 90, right? It will be 90 degrees. So when we put that value here, this phi 1 is 90, phi 2 is also 90. So it becomes 1 plus 1 2, and we cancel with this 4, and this is the final equation we have if the wire is of infinite long wire. And at this point I would like to mention about a area in which we are likely to commit a mistake. See, when we measure the phi 1 which is measured downward, one more time we need not put the minus sign here, because in the while doing the integration itself we have put the minus sign and we have considered. So thereafter one more time we need not consider the sign, only the magnitude, how much it is measured downward, how much it is measured upward. So directly we can take the positive values here and substitute. So we have got an expression for magnetic field produced by a straight wire. If it is an infinitely long wire, then the equation is a very simple equation. It is mu naught I divided by 2 pi a. A is the distance between the wire and the point where we consider the magnetic field. So this calculation has become very easy because the approach was a scalar approach. And what about the direction of magnetic field? For that we have to use the right hand thumb rule. That is the easiest way of doing it rather than integrating the vector quantity. So let us look at the figure and try to find out the direction of the magnetic field produced by the straight wire. What is it? Have a look at this. Consider this as the wire which we have just now discussed. So this is the wire, it carries current upward, and according to right hand thumb rule, which we have already discussed elaborately in some of the earlier lectures. So we grab the wire with our right hand, thumb pointing the direction of the current, that is the important thing, and the way in which the other fingers curl around. So that is the direction of magnetic field. Here it is represented as the blue line, which is a circle. Any point you consider, they all are concentric circles around the current carrying wire. If the wire is a straight wire running up to infinite length, then the magnetic field will be circular in shape. We will be learning about the properties of magnetic field in the future lectures. So, at that time we will get clarity about the direction of magnetic field and the properties and all that, but right now give importance to the method of calculating the magnitude of magnetic field and also the method of finding the direction of magnetic field. So, for a straight wire we have done it. The same thing can be extended for a coil. How a coil which is carrying current would also produce magnetic field. So, let us take it up for our discussion. The magnetic field is to be found at a point P on the axis of the coil. So, here we have the coil, the round coil which carries current, and this is the axis. At a point on the axis here, at this point P, we would like to find the magnetic field. So, A is the radius, I is the current, x is the distance between the center of the coil and the point P. We take this distance as x, and dl is the elemental length. For our consideration, this is the elemental length dl we have considered, and from the point P to dl the distance is r. And in our Biot-Savart law, we need to consider the angle, right, between the r and the current element. So, that value here, what it will be? It will be 90 degree, because we have the coil like this, and from the elemental wire, when we consider the distance r, this touches the coil at 90 degree. I hope you could be able to visualize the orientation. So, for us the term sin theta will become 1, because theta is 90 degree, sin 90 is 1 for all the points. For every point this position will be at perpendicular only. So, we need not consider that, but there are other angles we need to be careful with. Have a look at this diagram. I would like to explain the other angle. See here, the theta becomes 0. So, I would like to mention it so that there is no confusion between the other angle that we are going to see. In this case, the theta is 90 degree. The theta is the angle that we use in the Biot-Savart law. But due to this current element, the magnetic field is in this direction. So, this is the direction of magnetic field, right. So, this field has to be resolved into the two components. Here it is sin alpha and cos alpha. So, alpha is the angle we are going to use. Why we have to resolve? Because the diametrically opposite section, that when we consider, it will have this as the magnetic field. So, we have to resolve with the angle. So, for that purpose we use this angle T alpha, that alpha is found to be this value also. So, that is the angle between the r and x, and mainly the alpha is introduced here. So, when we resolve, what component gets cancelled? The cos component, cos alpha component of dB gets cancelled and sin component gets added up. So, this has to be integrated. The dB is resolved and we have considered the additive component of the dB, which is the dB sin alpha here, and the integration has to be performed. So, let us start with the Biot-Savart law as we do for finding the magnetic field. So, we have written the Biot-Savart law in the scalar form. As I have mentioned, theta is 90. So, sin 90 becomes 1. So, we have only the I, dl and r square. After resolution, we have to consider only the dB sin alpha alone, that remains. So, dB cos alpha gets cancelled. What do we have now? To cover the entire length of the coil, the above expression is integrated. So, we need to consider dB sin alpha, because that component only is additive. It is a regular integration, I need not explain too much about it, and we have to substitute for sin alpha from the geometry, and when we do that, this dB is also written, and most of the things are constants. Current is a constant, A is the distance involved, that is also a constant, R is another distance, A is the radius, which is a constant for the coil, and we have only integral dl, the length only has to be integrated. So, what is the integral dl? Any guess? When we integrate the elemental length dl, what do we get? We get the circumference ultimately. What is the circumference? 2 pi a. So, that has been substituted here, and the simplifications are performed. For r, we have written in terms of a and x from the geometry, you can refer to the diagram if you want, and finally, we have this as the expression for the magnetic field produced by the circular coil at a point on the axis. So, that is important, it is not any arbitrary point, we have chosen a point on the axis. So, it depends on the number of turns also, how many number of turns we have in the coil. So, accordingly, the I has to be replaced with Ni, instead of I we need to have Ni, and that is to be considered. And if you are interested in finding the magnetic field at the center of the coil, then what becomes 0? The x. X is a point, a distance from the point P and the center, that x will become 0, and if it becomes 0, the equation is all the more simplified, and it is mu naught Ni divided by 2a, because this x becomes 0, accordingly the equation gets modified. So, this is the expression for magnetic field at the center of the current carrying coil. This coil also, we need to find out the direction of the magnetic field. What we have done right now is only the magnetic field, magnitude, but we need to find the direction. Once again, we can use the right hand thumb rule segment wise to find out the magnetic field produced by the coil. Let us have a look at this picture, and if the coil is kept in this direction and the current is flowing as it is marked here in red, and the magnetic field will be upward, and this is for the axis. What we have shown, a straight line is for the axis, for this axis it is upward. What about the other points? For other points it is curved, but for every point it is getting completed, only the because of the space it is not fully shown, and they are all circular lines. And why it is marked as north and south? If you compare this coil with a typical bar magnet, the magnetic lines will come out from north and they will end in south. This is the rule we have for a bar magnet. And what about inside? It is still continuous. So, inside the magnetic field is from the south pole to north pole, and it is existing. So, what is the comparison between these two? Both are producing magnetic field in the similar way. A current carrying coil and a bar magnet, in producing the magnetic field, they are similar. So, if you call a bar magnet as a dipole, magnetic dipole, a current carrying coil is also a magnetic dipole. For dipoles, we normally have a term called dipole moment. So, let us try to define a term called dipole moment for this coil also. Is it not interesting? For electrostatic dipole, plus and minus charges separated by a distance, that is called electric dipole. The similar way we have a magnetic dipole also. We are going to define the term magnetic dipole moment for a current carrying coil. So, let us have the definition here. A circular coil is behaving as a magnetic dipole. As the current carrying coil has the magnetic field along its axis, it acts as a magnetic dipole. The magnetic dipole moment M is defined by the expression M is equal to NIA. Here M is the magnetic dipole moment of the coil, N is the number of turns of the coil, I is the current in the coil, that means in each turn of the coil. and A is the area of the coil. We need to consider if it is a coil of circular shape, then the entire area pi r square, r is the radius, like that we have to consider. So, it depends on the number of turns, current and area. Having defined the magnetic dipole moment, we can compare it with the electric dipole moment also. Shall we do that? So, this is the electric dipole moment. Magnetic dipole moment is depending on number of turns, current and area, and electric dipole depends on the charge, any one of the charges, and the distance. Distance is a d, it is the distance between the two charges. It depends on the charge and the geometrical factor. Here it depends on the current and the geometrical factor here. And if you want to implement the dipole moment into the expression for magnetic field, it is quickly done here. Have a look at this. At the center of the current carrying coil, this is the magnetic field produced by the coil. B is equal to mu naught Ni by 2A, which we have derived. And if you want to incorporate the expression of magnetic dipole moment, what is the magnetic dipole moment? It is Nia. So, multiply and divide with A, because already we have Ni, the only term missing is the area. So, multiply and divide with area. For a circular coil, we can substitute the area as pi a square. A is the radius, and the Ni pi a square could be written as the magnetic moment. The entire term, no, it is identified as the magnetic moment. So, it is replaced here with m, and the denominator has 2 pi a cube. So, this is the expression for the magnetic field produced by a circular coil at the center in terms of the magnetic dipole moment. So, we have seen an important result here. A current carrying coil could typically behave as a magnet, and it has got a term magnetic dipole moment. It depends on the number of turns, current and the area. It depends on the current factor and the geometrical factor. So, these are the key points you need to keep in mind. Think it is time for us to see the summary of this lecture. So, in this lecture we have seen the applications of Biot-Savart law. We used it for finding the magnetic field due to a straight current carrying infinitely long wire, and also we used Biot-Savart law for finding the magnetic field due to a current carrying circular coil. And also we have seen a current carrying coil behaves as a magnetic dipole, and we defined the term magnetic dipole moment. Before we wind up this session, let us test our understanding by answering these questions. Using Biot-Savart law, get the expression for the magnetic field B of a straight current carrying conductor. Using Biot-Savart law, find the expression for the magnetic field produced by a circular current carrying conductor. Define magnetic dipole moment and express the magnetic field for a circular coil in terms of the magnetic dipole moment. Hope you have understood the concepts covered in this lecture. See you in other lectures with the related concepts to magnetic field. Thank you for watching this program.